Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BSC news event with Beefy Finance and InsurAce, and hopefully Stargate will be joining us again soon. I'm getting some really weird feedback, so I need to check out what's going on. I'm not sure why it is, but hopefully it will go soon. Well, first of all, Dan and Wezo, Dan from InsurAce, Wezo from Beefy Finance, thank you very, very much for joining us. And sorry, everyone, that I'm wearing my headphones like this. Would you be able to introduce yourselves and also the project that you're representing? So perhaps starting off with Dan.
Sure. I'm Dan Thompson. I'm the CMO over at InsurAce.io. I've been in crypto and the blockchain space since about 2015 when I bought my first Bitcoin, although very loosely back then. Back in 2017, I started an index fund for crypto based out of Gibraltar, one of Europe's first. But got a lot more heavily into DeFi when I started working with InsurAce, pretty much actually exactly a year ago. And our mainnet launched about a year ago. InsurAce is a DeFi insurance protocol built on Ethereum, Binance, Polygon, and Avalanche, but we actually cover 140 different protocols across 20 different public chains. So it's been a very interesting year, very fast growing. We're actually the fastest growing insurance protocol out there with about 60% monthly growth and ever increasing sales. And we just brought out our V2 light paper last week, and which is very exciting. It improves a lot of the things that we have learned over the last year, and it's very exciting time as we sort of come into our second year of being and continue to essentially protect users against smart contract vulnerabilities, bugs, stablecoin depegs, IDO risks against hackers, so that they can sort of get some peace of mind and not worry about that as a risk, which as degens is probably not something we think about too much, aping into this and that everywhere. You factor in that as a risk. However, as more and more funds move into the space, and people managing other people's money, we have been seeing a big growth and a big spike in demand for people looking to insure their assets, especially in one of our favorite protocols, Beefy.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Well, yeah, that leads us on to Wezo. Thank you. Beefy, welcome.
No problem. Yeah, we have a great partnership with InsurAce. I think we got to be one of the higher insured protocols, right? Oh yeah, okay, Dan. Sorry. All right, so I'm Wezo. I'm a developer. Do pretty much everything at Beefy. We're also work with strategic partnerships. I help organize this from like a leadership perspective. Beefy Finance is the largest multi-chain yield optimizer. So we're across 14 different blockchains. We have over 1 billion TVL, over 740 different vaults, hundreds of protocol partners. So we have quite a large breadth of different strategies and yield opportunities across a whole bunch of different blockchains and networks. And we've been around for about a year and a half, and we're continuing to progress along. But it's been really fun working cross-chain, especially like with cross-chain partners such as InsurAce, where we're able to basically protect our users on any sort of network. So it's been good.
Fantastic, thank you. And it's quite a flex as well, having over 1 billion TVL. So yeah, congratulations on that as well. So my next question for both of you, everyone listening as well, hopefully Stargate will join us shortly. Obviously they're not here at the moment, but time waits for no one. So my next question is about your native tokens, or the tokens on the platform. Obviously you both have them. Would you be able to explain their utility and also the use within your ecosystem? So Dan, if you'd like to go first, that would be fantastic.
Sure. So yeah, the Insure token is our native token, INSUR. It's deployed on the 4 chains we're deployed on, so Binance, Ethereum originally, Avalanche, and Polygon. At the moment, as part of our V1, it was used for governance and rewards as part of our distribution of tokens to people who actually stake with us to provide their underwriting capital. That has, to date, unfortunately created a bit of sell pressure as just governance and rewards, because we have actually only had really a very handful of claims to date, and so the actual governance hasn't really been used too heavily. And However, we are fixing that, as I said, with our V2 just coming out now with a light paper and upcoming changes. That includes tokenomics changes, which will help us to increase value for users. We're doing that through multiple different avenues, everything from buybacks and redistribution to creating discounts for holders of our token, as well as allowing them to pay for insurance with it. We've got our investment arm, which will see extra benefits for anyone holding insure tokens, as well as an upcoming VE version of the insure token, which will allow people to essentially, same as everyone right now.
Yeah.
But at least it does give some extra value to the token and to the token holders, being able to borrow against it in some form or another.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dan. Very good. Wezo, if you'd like to go ahead, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Our token is Beefy, so BIFI. It's fully distributed, so there's 80,000 that were minted, and they're given away during like a liquidity mining process, and like a month after the protocol was launched, so about a little over a year and a half ago. They're used for governance, so any of the DAO members who own Beefy can vote on a lot of our measures, so treasury spend, protocol initiatives, marketing partnerships. But I think the most important use of Beefy is actually for each of the different blockchains we're on. Our earnings are distributed to stakers of the Beefy protocol in the earnings pools. So each of the different networks, you can earn the native network token as earnings. And if you prefer to earn more Beefy, we have a Beefy Maxi Vault on each of the different networks. And so you could just stake it in Beefy, and it actually stakes in the earnings pool for you and then sells whatever that native token is for more of Beefy. So it's sort of like a way for us to basically give like a dividend type of distribution back to the Beefy stakers. So everything you see that's like earning from staking on the Beefy protocol itself is from our earnings of the protocol. So as the protocol becomes bigger, larger, and succeeds, our earnings increase and the value of the Beefy token itself increases.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And obviously, you're listed on Binance as well. So that's where to get your Beefy. Great. So my next question is, Stargate is supposed to be here. So the numbers might be a little bit wrong. But between you have a TVL of around $3.2 billion, which is obviously a lot of money. Are there any extra security steps that you need to take when looking after that amount of money? Or that amount of assets in comparison to, say, a smaller project with maybe just 30,000 USD TVL. Because you're looking after that amount of money, are there any extra steps you take, or do you think other projects should be taking as well?
Actually, I think that's
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. I think that's the mindset. It doesn't matter how big your protocol is with TVL, right? You should have security as your first focus, no matter what your size is. And so I think, when we've gone and we worked with a ton of protocols, we have to go through like security reviews because Beefy is like a middle layer protocol. So we build on top of other protocols. And so the protocols that we build on top of has to go through some security audit from Beefy to make sure that it's safe enough for us to build on top of and allow our users to have access to this yield farm. And so I think when you go through this process with a lot of these different protocols, it's like the little things that I think that, maybe especially young developers don't really realize, or somebody hasn't been in this space. So like there's a lot of functions out there that have a lot of privilege, and people just have an EOA in charge of them. So just like an address, right? A developer address. And what we've seen is like time after time, those addresses, whether it's you open a malicious email or there's some sort of like disagreement between developer employees who has access, and all of a sudden they can wreak havoc on the protocol with all those privilege functions. So we make sure that they're tidied up with like multi-signatures, that if they have something that can actually move user funds, so it's a risk to actual user assets, that it's time locked. Any sort of protocol changes, so you have upgradable contracts, that those are time locked, because if you're working as you're built on top of a protocol, your contract code actually is built on top of their contract code. So if it changes, it could cause some issues on your own contract. So like can be, making sure that they have time locks so that we can react in time. So there's a lot of things that we that's ingrained in our culture as we look and we assess all of these opportunities with partner protocols. And I think the question kind of is a little misleading because it doesn't really matter what your size is. So yeah, $1 billion of TVL is a ton to watch out for, and it definitely gives you like sleepless nights, right? Making sure that you're have that properly covered. But I think that it starts with the mindset, no matter if you have $10,000 in your protocol, you have to be security focused. If you want to succeed in this business, you can't give up like opportunities, especially like easy exploitable opportunities. If you just tighten up your code a little bit, have secure, good operational security, it goes a long way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're at a slightly lower end of that, around about the sort of 50 million mark, which is again still no number to be shy about in any space, any industry. But yeah, I mean, we have the same philosophy. I mean, for us, it's not more, not less, really. I think everyone I think Wes is right. Yeah, everyone has to be careful of it. But we have our own, extra safety precautions as well. We've actually, remained closed source for this exact reason, for until we've a bit more secure. Because I think as an insurance protocol, if something happens to us, before there are decent reinsurance options available to us, it will, it can bury us as a project from now in the future. So from our side, we remain closed source. Wes is right about editable contracts, everything from every extra layer of security as you can. Even people sort of have a gold standard of audits as a security measure, but I mean, this is why insurance exists, because audits are done by fair enough developers and auditors who are paid to do so. But are they as motivated as a team? Probably not. Are they just doing their job and just going through the motions? Most likely. Or if they did spot something, how likely are they to pass it off to someone they know to, exploit it later after they've said it's okay? Now, it's the hackers who are particularly motivated to find exploits in these situations. So it really is up to teams to do everything they can. Whether it is time locked changes, whether it is multi-sig wallets and multi-sig payments that actually do help sort of control funds. There are even some protocols out there now which will sit on top of other protocols to delay transactions over a certain size, delay transactions to certain new wallets, to allow a bit of extra protection. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's why another reason why we exist. It's there to actually, some protocols, when we start with our onboarding process for them, actually raise the question of, does it look like, we think there's a vulnerability in our protocol if we accept, insurance services for our users? And the answer is always no. What you're doing is actually allowing for people to have that option, have that peace of mind, accepting that it is a risk, it is emerging technology. There are going to be changes and upgrades. It's not, nothing's fallible. And even with the audits, like I say, even audits that are completed and done well, within a very short amount of time, they are effectively, mundane. They're mitigated by the time and development of the space. So, they're sort of expired after just a few months. So the only real way of mitigating that risk for users of other protocols, especially, the big ones, anyone where people are trying to get some decent yields out of some state funds, insurance really does come in to do that. But from our own standpoint, we also do protect our users, our stakers, as much as possible. And we're extremely cautious and careful in the way we protect ourselves as well.
Yeah, no, very good points. And there's been a few projects, that I've been, gone on their social networks and things and had a look at their audits. And often the audit will say, critical, and a comment next to it saying, raised a team. And that's what the audit's found. And a lot of people think, well, it's had an audit, it must be safe, it's unruggable. But I think, well, in your opinion, to what extent should an audit be used as a guarantee of safety for consumers?
It's such a tough one, and without naming any names, some auditors are better than others. We factor that into our risk scores, and therefore our risk final sort of premium prices and capacity allocations. But I mean, it should just, I think it's just one of those things that should be checked. And you're right, when it says raise the team, when it says fixed or not necessarily fixed. And I wish I still had the stats. I was at a presentation yesterday where someone actually read out the stats of how many audits are even followed or actually checked up, how many teams actually follow the recommendations of audits and not. And it was horrifying, actually. I really wish I had the figures with me, but we're going to work that into some of our marketing soon. And yeah, I mean, audits are great. They do help the team spot certain things. They are good for the public to think, but there is a very quick perception of, oh, there's an audit, it must be okay. And that is unfortunately, again, because people are just aping into projects quickly. But I think with a couple of bits of experience in the space, people are getting better at actually reviewing the audits properly and having a look at when they were done, who they were done by, and finding better quality ones from the sort of lower quality ones that were maybe done quickly or just a long time ago.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. Very wise words. My next question is about different networks or different chains. Obviously, you both support quite a few EVM compatible networks, but also non-EVM chains as well. From a technical perspective, is it more difficult combining EVM with non-EVM, or just sticking perhaps with EVM? I mean, are they entirely different in the way they operate? I don't really know much about Solidity or whatever it might be when sort of making these contracts for different chains. But yeah, any sort of light on that? Combining EVM and non-EVM chains on the same platform, is that difficult? Also, actually, Wezo, one question quickly. I can see you've got Kronos. Is that Kronos Beta or Kronos Mainnet?
It's mainnet. It's
Okay.
Kronos is an EVM chain. So
okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Good. Yeah, Wezo. Yeah. So yeah, combining EVM and non-EVM.
Yeah, it's like speaking two different languages, right? Whether you're coding in Solidity or you're coding in Rust or whatever the non-EVM layer chain is. So there's a couple of problems with that. One is that your application has to be adjusted to the non-EVM chain. Two is the code base, your infrastructure code base. So like that's written in Solidity would have to be completely rewritten to like the new language. And the third thing is that a lot of your developers that have helped build you to where you are may be very good at Solidity, but maybe not as good at Rust or something like that. So when you're sitting here and we just had a conversation about security. If you're security focused, you want to make sure that you're the expert of whatever that category is, right? So if you're not an expert in Rust, and you're just trying to, pick it up and then you're going to try to deploy there, I think that's where you can get into a lot of issues. So you have to then, get a very seasoned and senior developer in order to accommodate whatever the non-EVM layer is. And so then that's an extra developer, an extra contributor to the team, and it has to be a trusted contributor to the team. So there's a lot of complexity when it goes to trying to do something on a non-EVM chain. And so that like Beefy itself, we've stuck to all EVM chains right now. So any of the 14 different blockchains we're on are EVM. So it helps us because at least our infrastructure is battle tested. So all of that can get deployed on EVM without us doing a whole lot of extra stuff. All of the contracts that we read through, so the partner protocol contracts, we're very familiar. So it doesn't really matter blockchain to blockchain to blockchain as long as they're EVM. These contracts are very similar, so we have we can look out for certain things. We know exactly what we're kind of reading and looking for. Whereas if we were to go to non-EVM, that's where it kind of gets into trouble. So it's very complex. It's really hard to do as a protocol. It's also kind of like stick to what you're good at type thing. But if you don't have the capability, you don't have the developer capability, I'd say that there's a huge uphill battle you're kind of facing to try to go from EVM to non-EVM.
Great, thank you, Dan.
I mean, we have to agree. I mean, on the flip side, again, we're slightly smaller. We don't have the developer manpower necessarily to actually commit the resources to building on both. So we are EVM based. We do cover other ecosystems, so everything from Solana to Kronos and everything in between. We do this through basically just being able to validate the ownership of wallets. So as long as you can prove that you own a particular wallet at the events for claim, the microtransactions, we can cover it from an insurance standpoint. But you do have to buy the insurance using one of the 4 chains we're deployed onto. The other issue is not just necessarily developers, but it's also allocation of tokens. Having to allocate a sufficient liquidity of your tokens that you would have to bridge across without creating new tokens and diluting the supply is another reason for being careful as to how many chains you deploy on. It's something that we look at a lot. We are a multi-chain insurance protocol, and we all believe that multi-chain is the future, not necessarily one over the other. But yeah, between the developer resources and possible security issues as well, and any bridge issues if you are bridging between them in one way or another. But also, yeah, token allocation, liquidity provision is actually a significant concern for smaller growing protocols.
Thank you. Very interesting indeed. My next question is about the future of DeFi. Obviously, Beefy, you're quite, pretty much DeFi. Dan, you offer something slightly different. It's when people think DeFi, they might not think insurance, but I'm sure this applies to you as well. In your opinion, what is the future of DeFi? Say, sort of 2 years down the line, is it going to be similar to what we have now, or in your opinion, is it going to be different? And also, perhaps in what way would it be different? Is regulation going to take over, or how do you think things will look in a couple of years?
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. You can go.
Obviously, the DeFi space is evolving and changing. Regulation is a funny one in this space because obviously the space moves so fast, the regulators can't keep up. I mean, I think they're still trying to deal with ICOs in 2017. So all the new technology, all the developing technology, a lot of governments, a lot of regulators are still trying to sort of catch up with. So what's the future of DeFi? Honestly, it just keeps evolving day in, day out. I think insurance is there. I mean, the future is where the sort of secondary services like insurance do come in, right? As other money comes in, as other people look to mitigate their risks, there's only a certain amount of times you'll lose money through a hack or something before you start looking at mitigating that risk through insurance. So I think the future of DeFi does become a lot more sophisticated. I think there's arguments for both centralized and decentralized, or some sort of combination of that for the future of it to work, either regulated or unregulated. But I think that the level of brain power in the space will just keep innovating. It's incredible. I mean, I'm at ETH Amsterdam and DevConnect right now, and just seeing some of the ideas in the space, talking to some of these projects that are coming out, it's just incredible what solutions people are coming up with and how that's all going to evolve going forward.
Great, thank you. And also we have Brian with us. So welcome, Brian. It says Layer 0 on your little name. I assume you're from Stargate?
Yeah, it should be Layer 0 Labs. I don't know how to change it, but yes, Layer 0 Labs, which is kind of the parent company behind both Layer 0 and Stargate.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to the stream, first of all. Great to have you here. We're sort of about halfway through the questions or so. But before we continue, the current question that we were on, would you be able to introduce yourself and also Stargate quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brian, one of 3 founders and CEO of Layer 0 Labs. Stargate is really, it's a bridge, but it's meant to be different kind of than most bridges that exist now. So it is 100% native assets. It's kind of meant to be a liquidity transfer layer. So if you think in the traditional sense, your average bridge is lock an asset here, mint to wrap synthetic over there. Stargate is pools of native assets. It's meant to be composables. Your normal bridges, a user will kind of take a bag of money and go somewhere else. Stargate is meant to solve for, you are a yield aggregator and you want your user to unstake here and stake there. You're a DEX and you want to swap here and stake there. All of those things require the ability to, at the application layer, kind of teleport money from one chain to another. You need standing inventory to do this arbitrary contract invocation, and Stargate is meant to solve exactly that layer. So I think of it as a liquidity transfer layer.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. The question that we were halfway through as well answering was, in your opinion, what is the future of DeFi? I know it's a fairly general, broad question, but sort of 2 years, 5 years down the line, where do you see DeFi?
I mean, I think it can go a lot of different ways. It's at like some sort of inflection point here where are we going to look more like TradFi, or are we going to look like more of an extension of kind of the current systems, right? Are we going to consolidate liquidity? Are we going to have things where it's more disintermediated and sort of, let's say, economic models kind of sort themselves out? Or is it going to look more like sort of TradFi structures? So I certainly hope it looks more like current DeFi, and basically it's just a progression towards deeper and deeper liquidity, onboarding, sort of global institutional partners and basically have a construct around that. But I don't think I have any like magical insight past that.
Okay, no, I don't think anyone probably accurately does. It's very good to hear everyone's opinions though. Thank you very much, Brian from Stargate. Wezo from Beefy. Years down the line, what do you think is going to happen with DeFi? How is it going to look?
I'm actually really excited about Layer 0. Like, I mean,
good.
we can do all sorts of things with like cross-chain communication now, like of our contracts. So it's actually a layer that we've sort of been missing, right? Because all of our vaults and stuff operate on the isolated blockchain. But there's so many opportunities for us to do like cross-chain communications and cross-chain like DeFi products. And so like Layer 0 is helping us solve that. So it's something that I've been paying attention to. So I'm excited about the launch. We actually have Stargate vaults already on our application. But I think if we're talking more about like, where is like DeFi going to end up? I think there's going to be like a little bit of a mix, because I think there is going to be a portion of like institutional investors or people that really want to get involved that are looking for more of a like a gated DeFi system, even in this. So you're going to see, obviously, I think that start to really kind of develop. I don't know how much that's going to take off compared to, what we see now. I mean, Aave Arc was already started like doing that, but it'll be interesting. I think first on the product side, we'll see more, I think, innovation start to take place as like the infrastructure, the base infrastructure of these products that we can kind of build on top of starts to really form. And then I think, where is it all going to, be with regulation? I mean, nobody can really kind of tell, but you can see probably it's going to be a little bit of a mixed bag of both. So,
great, thank you, very good. My next questions are for each of you, so it's a separate question for your projects. You're more than welcome to comment on each other's answers and sort of add comments or anything like that at all. My first one is for InsurAce. So Dan. What I'm interested to know is when there's a claim, so for example, a smart contract is being exploited and you pay out insurance to the people that have been affected. Would you be able to talk us through the steps of how that works? So from the initial, a person's reported the exploit to who underwrites the insurance, that sort of thing. And sort of how it works technically and who pays for what and how it's funded and things.
Yeah, sure. I can use some very relevant examples as well. So imagine Brian's got, let's say, $100,000 staked into Beefy right now, and whichever underlying pool. He can go to our app and purchase. So let's say it's one of the tasty Beefy pools where you're getting 300-400% AVY. And he's doing very, very well out of it. He's very, very happy with that. What he'd then do is then come to our app, connect his wallet, and basically search for Beefy, or use the link on the Beefy site to get himself a cheeky little 5% discount as well. And basically select that, choose how much he wants to cover, and for how long he wants to cover it for, whether that's 1 month, 2 months, or a full year. That's going to set him back, I believe, for Beefy is 2.9%. I could be wrong. We have 140 different protocols. I can't remember all of them, but I think it's around 2.8, 2.9 for the year. And it's a very fair price for for a short amount of time as well. So you can select how long, how much you want to cover, and then it's all on chain, no KYC, and we generally work out cheaper than most other insurance protocols available at the moment. Then, if say Beefy were to get hacked, I'm not saying it's very, very secure, but if in the event of an exploit or some bug in the code for whatever reason, he'd come back to the app, find his dashboard, find his cover that he's purchased, and basically against that make a claim, submit some evidence, show that he's both staked in Beefy at the time, the funds were withdrawn to a hacker or an exploit or a bug wallet, or just he, for whatever reason couldn't access them, so essentially lost in the same way. That shows a loss all on chain, which makes it fairly objective for us. At this point of claim, our sort of staking withdrawal is frozen until we put together a small report. The report then goes to our governance, which is our insure token holders, who can then stake with us to claim to help vote on whether or not they accept or reject the vote. it is fairly fair in terms of, we can't reject too many in that sort of sense, because essentially it would just everyone will lose faith in buying insurance, whereas we don't want that. And we have the funds. Our data page is extremely transparent, so you can always see that we have enough capital available. We're not over leveraged, unlike some other insurance protocols are, for every $1 they're covering $20, right, which is just insane. We do about up to 2.5 at the moment. I personally would like to take a bit more risk, but that's luckily why I do the marketing and not the insurance side of things. And anyway, so we make sure we have enough capital there. The vote goes through, and whether it's accepted or rejected. If it's accepted, great, you get paid out all within the space of about 10 days. If it's rejected, then you do have an appeals process, which currently goes back to the sort of initial report team, which is compiled by experts, both blockchain, insurance, legal, and finance. But if that also fails in the future, we do have plans to work with Kleros, which is an independent DAO for judiciary services like this. So we get an independent second DAO vote, which will make it extremely fair. And again, everything on chain, everything public, and essentially just making insurance in a better way, in a way that genuinely protects people in the event that the very unfortunate thing happens of a hack. And we are looking to expand our coverage as well to include things like flash loan attacks, UI attacks, instead of just smart contracts and stablecoin depegs. But that's all in the works and coming up. But for now, just to make that extra protection, we really, even with, I think you saw it on the screen there, we're going through a process at the moment with Elephant Money, which technically was a flash loan attack, but some people genuinely have lost funds because of it, because of selling out of, fear that they would never get their money back at all. And so we are actually working, I guess, in a very nice way that we don't have to pay out, but we are working out a way to compensate people who had insurance policies on Elephant Money, and integrating that in the future into what we do. So we will have our, essentially a first payout on our services, a great proof of concept, and I think a great show for our guys who have actually gone against our community technically to actually, encourage that this actually does get paid out, instead of the community who are turning around saying, actually, do you know what, the contract, the wording of our policy says don't pay out because it's not a smart contract hack. But we figured that as part of our V2 updates, it is something we should be covering. And so as a way of showing that we are being progressive here, we are looking to pay out some of the Elephant Money case.
Well done. No, that's very, very interesting indeed. Very interesting. Quite an interesting question that someone's asked in the comments as well. It's basically, if people are staking insure tokens on your own platform, are they insured as well? I mean,
yeah.
I take it, well, technically they'd have to be like insured with another third party or another, service like yours. So it would be a bit strange.
Who guards the guardians, right?
Yeah.
I agree. It's reinsurance is a very, very tricky one for us, because traditional insurance companies can't touch DeFi, and other insurers in DeFi are almost, there's a conflict of interest. Now, we do have a solution for this coming out actually in the next 2 or 3 months. So it is something we will be addressing, and we will have a reinsurance option. So people staking with us will be able to buy insurance somewhere else actually very, very soon.
Amazing. Thank you. And so Raw Blitz, there's your answer. Thank you very much, Dan. Wezo, Beefy Finance, this one's for you. So I'm a big fan. Well, I do like, DeFi and staking and things. And then one of the platforms that I sometimes use is Moonpot. And something that's always there is powered by Beefy. And I see that quite often in different places. Would you be able to explain to us what that means, and sort of how many projects you're supporting with your services?
Sure. So Beefy itself is, so the vault concept, right? You deposit into the vault and you get like a share token, and your share token is always increasing in value. So it's essentially interest bearing. And so what you can do in DeFi with this is basically use those receipt tokens as interest bearing tokens in a variety of different places. So Moonpots is built upon on top of the Beefy platform and uses it to generate the yield for whatever the pot is. We have other protocols like Cheetah that we work with cross-chain that uses Moo tokens as collateral. We have other protocols that are using them as part of like index funds. So we have a whole variety of use cases. I mean, once you have like this essentially interest-bearing token, and Beefy's kind of doing all the hard auto compounding work for you, it opens up a world of possibilities of things that you can build on top of those. And so that's what we've been really, I mean, as part of our partnership, it kind of works in both directions. So when I said we're a middle layer protocol, we build on top of other yield protocols, but then we have a whole bunch of other protocols that build on top of us. So it's all the money Lego DeFi kind of game where, similar to the other yield optimizers that do it like Yearn and Harvest, where you have, now this like interest-bearing token that you can do a whole lot of fun and unique DeFi things with.
Great. Thank you very much, Wezo. Brian, I'm very aware as well that obviously you came a little bit late and you haven't said as much as everyone else. So I do apologise, but you're more than welcome to take a little bit longer on this answer if you want. My question for you is, obviously you offer, you are basically like a cross-chain swap. When people are transferring assets across different chains, how, first of all, do they pay gas? Well, do they need to pay gas for two different chains, and sort of how many transactions do they need to pay? But also from a technical level, contracts and that sort of thing, is it challenging to transfer assets cross-chain? Is there, a lot of expertise needed?
Yeah, sure. And again, apologies. I swear I was waiting on an empty link. The lonely Pablo gif just by myself there while you guys were in here having a great discussion. So I'm glad it finally got sorted out. In terms of needing to pay gas, so ultimately you can't write a transaction on a chain without paying the gas for it. You know what I mean? There's block space and the miners charge for block space, and you need to do it. So if you're going from source to destination, you need to write a transaction on each of those chains, which means that you need to pay gas on both. Ultimately, in the current landscape right now, basically everything but Ethereum is pretty negligible. So if you go from Ethereum to anything else, you'll pay one ETH transaction and one thing is near free. If you go between them, they'll both be extremely cheap, right? So at the end of the day, you're paying source and destination. But one of the really nice parts about this is that it all gets bundled up front. So kind of the old model, the way that people would do this for almost every bridge prior was you would write a transaction on source, it would go through. You would need to switch your wallet to say you're going BNB chain to Phantom. You would leave, so you'd pay your initial thing at BNB, you'd go, you'd have to switch your wallet to the Phantom RPC, you'd have to get Phantom, put it in your wallet, claim the transaction on the other side, and then you could do something on the other side. So one of the nice things about this is that you only ever pay on source. If you go BNB chain to Phantom, you pay everything up front in BNB. If you go from Arbitrum to Ethereum, you pay everything up front in Arbitrum ETH, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. So it really takes the consumer experience where people need to think about multiple wallets, they need to think about multiple gas assets and going to a centralized exchange, getting the gas, putting in the wallet, and just abstract all of that away. So that component is really nice. And then is it easy? I would hope that it's very easy. So Stargate itself, again, should be sign a single transaction and the whole flow gets executed. One of the really nice components of that, whether it's Beefy, whether it's anybody else, all of these integrations are super, super cool because it allows you to do things like swap, initiate a bridge. So swap, add to Stargate, remove from Stargate, swap, unstake here, add to Stargate, remove stake, right? So when you were jumping from a yield farm here to a yield farm here, now you can take all of those things, again, bundle them up to a single transaction. So no longer do you need to do an action on one application, leave, find a bridge, go across the bridge, and then go back to the application. Now the application itself can own the entire flow, the whole process. And I think that is really, really cool. And those integrations, the Sushi Swap integration was 30 lines of code or something, 30 to 100. It's trivially small because effectively what you're doing is you're wrapping these two contracts, composing Stargate, and then the whole flow is basically done, right? And so that kind of stuff is really cool. The broad goal in general is always to make it as simple as possible.
Great. Thank you very much. Very interesting indeed. Those are all the questions that I have for you. Is there anything that I've not asked you that you'd like to bring up, or anything that you'd like to raise at all, or any comments that you'd like to make to each other?
I mean, we're going to reach out to Stargate and get Stargate listed on our app as soon as possible. There's one.
Good. Well,
please do.
Fantastic. You obviously have the Telegram chat that we're in, so yeah, you're more than welcome. yeah, I mean, it's been very eye-opening speaking to you, and thank you very, very much for your time. This will be this has been recorded as well on YouTube. So yeah, people that have missed it, you're more than welcome. I shouldn't actually be re-speaking, but yeah, no one's actually going to. I'm going to stop there. Okay, yeah, I'll send the link to you that we've done on YouTube, so you'll be able to send this to your communities. But thank you very, very much for your time. It has been, yeah, a very, very interesting talk indeed.
I love the chat love, just full of cows, moos, and it's awesome.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, with names like Power Beefy, Moo. Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much, guys. Have a great evening, and speak soon. Thank you.
Everybody's ready for the Stargate cross-chain Beefy vaults. That's what it is.
So
honestly,
covered by InsurAce.
Yeah, we get it in our channels as well. Every time Beefy gets mentioned, it's just cows everywhere for like weeks.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Good. Thanks again, guys. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.